Good evening, everyone, and welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight from wherever you are, whether you're here in the audience with us, whether you're watching us on Zoom or Facebook or YouTube. And if you are on YouTube, we ask that you please hit the like and subscribe button. Or if you're on any of our other canned platforms, such as Roku, Amazon, Apple TV. So my co-host tonight is traveling, Alan Steinfeld, and he'll be with us Thursday, but just not tonight. And it's really funny because our guest tonight, he had invited for tonight, and I also had invited for Thursday. So we're going to get a double whammy, and you're going to understand why here in just a second. So I am super excited to tell you about our guest tonight, Greg, well, better known as Greg, the Hydrogen Man. And as a former sick person, he found a molecule within water that led him down a deep path of healing and discovery that changed his life and his health. And tonight he's going to speak with us about how he was able to find healing, the power of it through the power of hydrogen, and the importance of using or making hydrogen safe and effective. And I can't wait to hear all about this. So Greg, I want to go ahead and bring you up. I just can't find you. There you are. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing very well today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much for being here with us. I thought it was pretty funny that we both had invited you for the same week, but I'm really excited because, as I understand, there's so much information that you've got that you can share with us. But I was wondering if maybe you could start out and just tell people a little bit more about you and how you actually came to this path.
You know, it's funny that what I would probably say to that is a lot of pain and suffering is what brought me to this path. And I think that I've kind of observed that sometimes the spiritual path and the healing path seems to kind of correlate with a lot of pain and suffering.
Yeah.
And so that's how all this really happened. It certainly wasn't planned. And I myself was extremely sick, and it appears, before I begin, I probably should say, I'm not going to give any medical advice today. I'm not making any medical claims because the world we live in, and have to be always cautious with that. But it did lead to not only the path of healing, which I did not expect to learn the things that I've learned, and even to know the things that I know. I was never a health guru. I was never into the health thing, to be quite upfront with you. It just wasn't my thing. And I never even thought about it. It actually didn't interest me at all. And now it's gone such a far leap forward that I literally have, literally oncologists, doctors, cancer doctors, naturopaths, all sorts of people contacted me quite regularly, asking me to show them what I've done because I've shared it with some people in the whole, a lot of people who basically, quote unquote, have been sick, and their physicians and even their naturopaths have seen the results, and they're like, where did you learn to do this? And then they tell them about me, and then that's how they learn about me. And then this whole thing has gone a little wild and crazy. So a lot of people have been learning about, quote unquote, some of the things that I've learned about. And obviously hydrogen is a huge, huge part of that.
Yeah, well, can you tell us about that?
Well, ultimately, hydrogen there's a lot of science though now to support it. And we are talking about pure hydrogen. I know a lot of people get confused with other modalities of hydrogen, and it's important to understand the differences. But ultimately, I discovered it because of the Japanese. The Japanese discovered that hydrogen appeared to have an effect on the human body and our health. And it took years and massive amounts of research, by the way. So we're not talking about something that I've noticed that there's a lot of things out there in the alternative world where people are saying, oh, this is really good for your health. And maybe there's one study, maybe 0 studies, maybe 10 studies. In hydrogen, there's not 100 or even 200 or 500 or even 1,000. There's almost 2,000 studies. I mean, it's crazy.
Wow.
The amount of research. It's absolutely insane. And the things that I've seen, not only witnessed myself, if I were to give you a quick example, my father was one of the most amazing ones because he was one of my first guinea pigs, including me. Me and my father were basically my first guinea pigs, as you might want to call it. And he was dealing with high blood pressure, cholesterol issues, diabetes, arthritis, and really bad glaucoma. And I use hydrogen and clean water. So I like the combination of extremely clean water. I know every water filtration modality in existence now. And also the hydrogen part and making it really cleanly, proper levels, just the proper way to know how to make it and use it. And all my dad's issues went away. I mean, I got some funny stories from his doctors who basically had been monitoring him annually for example, with his glaucoma. And all of a sudden he's testing negative for glaucoma. And especially at his age, they're like, what is going on here? They literally thought they were making a mistake. They thought that they were doing something wrong and he was showing up negative. But what had happened is that his glaucoma appeared to just disappear. And of course, his arthritis disappeared, all his issues. He wasn't on any pharmaceuticals. And then with me, it was very similar story, but my story was probably more extreme even than his. His was more well documented. Mine, I mean, I couldn't walk. I was in extreme pain. I also had a heart condition that was supposed to end my life. So I was told that I needed open heart surgery, which by the way, I never received because using hydrogen in a specific way, actually, my heart condition disappeared. So which is kind of a crazy statement, but that's what happened. And then I used my techniques that I had created after learning a lot about hydrogen. And I shared it with other people who had basically very similar heart conditions. Their heart conditions went away. And it's like, this is crazy. Because they wanted to cut me open, break my rib cage, get in there, do open heart surgery. That's some scary stuff. I mean, it's scary. And so it just got really wild. You know, I also had tumors. I had really, really bad like arthritis. I actually had some like autoimmune issues going on. I just had so many things going on. And so, you know, I embarked on this path of health and wanting to understand the human body. And I did not expect to stumble upon hydrogen and learn so much about it that eventually I started coming up with my own techniques that ended up being proven to actually be the best techniques. So there is science now to support my, you know, the hypotheses that I once had. And I became the hydrogen man.
Yeah. Now, when you're talking about hydrogen, are you referring to the hydrogen in water? Are you referring to something like hydrogen as in hydrogen peroxide? What exactly are you talking about?
So this is really important to distinguish because hydrogen peroxide really doesn't have a lot to do with hydrogen. So I'll give you an example. So if we talk about the molecular formula, we know that water is H2O. And hydrogen peroxide is H2O2, which means it's an additional oxygen molecule. So if anything, it's actually more oxygen. And oxygen is oxidizing. This is why oxygen is good at killing things, which is the reason that if you get a cut, you put hydrogen peroxide because it can kill like bacteria or some pathogen so that you don't get an infection. The hydrogen that I speak of, the one that has been found medically viable, and they're already approved it, by the way, it's being medically used in Japan already, is what we call molecular hydrogen. So it's basically a gas, kind of like oxygen, it's a type of gas. And so the molecular formula, the chemical formula for the type of hydrogen that I'm speaking of, for example, if you dissolve it in water would be H2O plus H2 plus H2 plus H2. So you have a bunch of this gas that's dissolved into the water and you can drink that. In fact, there's places like, have you ever heard of a place called Lourdes, France? Some people pronounce it Lourdes, France.
No, I haven't.
So the healing water of Lourdes. So basically, it's a really kind of old story. People from all around the world go to this sacred site in France because people would drink the water and they were claiming, you know, miraculous healings. Mm-hmm. And eventually there were so many of them that they started like doing research on it. So they wanted to see if this was real. And then many people researched the water. Nobody was finding anything miraculous. And the funny thing is because if you take the water and you go somewhere, the hydrogen will dissipate. So eventually by the time you test it, you know, there's nothing going to be left in that water. But it was the Japanese who really, really took it to the next level. They discovered that water had hydrogen. It had dissolved hydrogen gas within the water. And then once they started trying to use it medically, when they were doing studies, even just to start off on animals, they started seeing the amazing results of it. And that's what kind of led to the discovery of hydrogen and being used for health, basically.
So how would one go about obtaining hydrogen?
So basically, at this point, you really would have to make it. And I say that because hydrogen is so interesting. It'll literally go right through anything. And it's also what I've begun to call the ascension molecule, because hydrogen ascends. It literally wants to float away like a balloon. And so even if you dissolve it in water, it wants to leave very quickly. And even if you try to put it in a container, it will literally go right through metal, right through glass, right through plastic. I mean, it just likes to go right through anything. It's so tiny, which is part of what gives us its power. Because when you utilize it and you take it in, it'll go into every nick and cranny of your body. There is no place that it cannot penetrate into your body. And so ultimately you want to make it. And that began the new journey for me, because I had read the scientific data for a long time. For a lot of people who don't know my personality, I'm kind of like a huge skeptic. And so when I was first reading the data on hydrogen and how it affected our body, I just kept thinking, this can't be real. I actually thought it was a scam when I was first reading about it. And it took me almost 4 years of reading literature that I thought, oh my goodness, where is this data coming from? And I saw that it was coming from very legitimate places in Japan, universities. And I was seeing that it was going to be approved medically. And I thought, how in the heck do I get my hands on this hydrogen? Much like what you're asking. And that really opened up a lot of homework for me, because I really needed to figure out how to make it. I didn't realize that you could make it in ways that you wouldn't want to consume, because it could potentially be unsafe. So you really want to make it properly, like a lot of things, kind of like fruits and vegetables. We don't want them sprayed with chemicals and genetically modified, stuff like that. You want to make it properly. And so eventually it led me down the path of learning how to make it. And I found a lot of different companies. I tried many different modalities, and it was just better than me trying to build something in my garage or something like that, was to find a company that was professionally doing it.
Great. And you were able to do that. So how
Yeah.
how do you use this? What's the mixture like?
So ultimately, there's really two ways there's more than two ways, but two ways seem to be the most effective and the easiest to access, which is one, you dissolve it into water.
Mm-hmm.
And you really want, again, I can't emphasize enough to do it properly. Otherwise, there can be potential issues. And the other one's like a hydrogen gas. In fact, I could show you right here. I have a cannula right here. I can inhale the hydrogen gas, just pure hydrogen gas. And those are the two ways that I found that are the most effective and easiest way to access, because otherwise it would have been way, way, way too expensive and complex.
And so just by breathing the hydrogen in, it goes to work in the system. Do you think that it begins to kill the virus and bacteria, or is it bolstering the immune system, or is it doing both?
Well, that's what's interesting. It appears to do both. But ultimately it seems to really, it does, this is what's funny about hydrogen. Even professionals just don't really understand the full mechanism of it, but they can see that it does certain things. For example, one, they've noticed that it functions as a selective antioxidant. So it's not a normal antioxidant. And a lot of people don't understand that antioxidants come in different sizes. So the size of the molecule of like vitamin C or glutathione, things of this nature, or hydrogen. Hydrogen is so much tinier. It's so tiny, which is part of what gives it its power, but it's also selective. So it's not like CoQ10, which is actually a very large molecule and wants to antioxidize indiscriminately, which actually we don't want. We want something, and hydrogen really seems to appear to like do it selectively. And there was one of the first things that actually intrigued me about hydrogen when I was reading the data, how much it was able to just pick and choose what it wanted to do. It was unbelievable. And it always wanted to do good things from what I could see, because they did numerous studies on numerous medical ailments. And they even did studies where they compared it to pharmaceutical drugs for the same ailment, only to find that hydrogen worked better without the side effects. I mean, the only side effect that I've really seen is an anti-aging actually aspect to it, which is kind of interesting. There was a study done in Japan where when you would use hydrogen, they did a study on this guy. They took his blood, and they can literally kind of tell roughly your age by looking at your blood. And then they put him on really clean, properly made hydrogen every single day for a year. And he was just drinking the water. He wasn't even doing some of the protocols that I've now created. And he did this for a year. And after a year, they tested his blood again, and he didn't change his lifestyle at all. Everything stayed the same. And his blood ended up being 5 years younger. Wow. So there seems to be a anti-aging property to it, but it really is a life molecule. It really seems to bring a lot of life to not only the human body. You should see what it does to the blood. I have a YouTube channel, and my videos are numbered. And video number 68, I did a live blood analysis. Well, I didn't do it. I mean, somebody did it, and I showed it on my channel. And it showed what it did to the blood. And it was so unbelievable. I mean, so unreal that I even had a doctor contact me one time. And she told me, she said, what you're showing on that video is impossible. And I said, well, no, it's real. And she asked me, were you there in the lab? And I said, well, no, but I mean, this is coming from a very reliable source. And she still didn't believe it. And she ended up getting a piece of equipment, which is the same equipment I use. So the equipment I use is Japanese equipment. It's the best way of making hydrogen that I've discovered. And I've tried all sorts of modalities. I know every way of making hydrogen out there. So that's why I choose this one, because it's the best. And so this particular doctor took the same device, did the exact same test. And in the end, the results came back exactly the same. And she was so blown away, she just couldn't believe it. It really is, it boggles the mind. It's actually, it almost like it does the impossible. I mean, it literally fights gravity. I mean, it ascends, like a balloon type of thing.
And so how long does this typically take to start making changes in the body?
So the changes appear to happen almost immediately. So if you're testing the blood, when they did the blood study in video number 68, it happens very quickly if you're measuring it, like you're measuring the blood, for example. But if you want to see certain changes, so this is important to note, because you don't really just get sick overnight. It may seem that way. You may wake up one day and have certain pain or something, but this is something that is slowly developing in the body. So to give you an example, my father's always a really wonderful example. He had his glaucoma for 30 years or more, but it was around 30 years. And with the hydrogen of using it regularly, it took 3 years before he tested negative. But it was obviously making changes as he went, but it took 3 years. I mean, that's a very long time. The good news is that it's easy to use hydrogen, but his cholesterol, the blood pressure stuff, the diabetes stuff, all the other issues he had took about 6 to 8 months before his symptoms were gone.
Have you heard of people having success with Lyme's disease?
So with Lyme's, it's a little different, but I have heard people get improvement, but I haven't heard like people just like, oh, it's completely gone. But the thing about hydrogen that I've quote unquote observed or that I've noticed is that it actually enhances a lot of other modalities. Like, for example, if you're going to be using, okay, here's one example of many, by the way. Let's say you have high blood pressure or even diabetes or something. I always tell people, look, if you're taking medication, let's say for high blood pressure, I said, be really cautious, because if you start using the hydrogen, make sure to continue to monitor your blood pressure, because it could make it go too low for two reasons. One, it could potentially begin to resolve the issue, the core problem, the source of the issue. But two, it could also make the medication that you're using work more efficiently. So your blood pressure can drop too low, which means a little by little, you will potentially have to really start getting off the medication to the point until you're not taking the medication any longer. And I've seen that happen a lot. There was a woman, just one of many examples. She's always had high blood pressure ever since she can remember, she said. She's kind of older woman. And I told her this, and she goes, I'm not worried. My blood pressure never goes too low. Sure enough, it went too low, and they had to slowly remove her off the medication until eventually she was also off the medication. So which is a pretty wonderful thing in the end. But also the protective effects of hydrogen are pretty wild. If you were to watch my video number 8, it's unbelievable how it protects you.
That's awesome. So this is your YouTube video, correct? Your YouTube channel?
Yes. My YouTube channel is called Uprising 144K. One word, all together.
Great. So Uprising 144K. Perfect. Great. So now, one of the other things that I wanted to ask you, if people are like super stoked about this after hearing you talk, and they're like, okay, I want to get started, I want to try this protocol, what do they need to do? How do they need to get started, and what are your recommendations?
Well, my recommendations are two things. One, obviously you need a really good hydrogen generator, and that's really difficult to really navigate. It took me years of research to figure out how to do it the best way. The best way, if you want to there's a website, there's this company called holyhydrogen.com. So it's, interestingly enough, it is kind of a spiritual name, holyhydrogen.com. And they literally have the best equipment. And it's Japanese made. by the way, it's lab tested and certified, which no hydrogen generator in the world does. This is the only company, because most of this stuff is made in China, Korea, Taiwan, stuff like that. This is the only machine that, well, actually there's two of them, but this one's actually much better, that are truly engineered and truly built in Japan. And this is the #1 hydrogen company, literally in the world, but in Japan. And that's the machine that I ended up finding worked best, because I tried a lot of them. I probably spent way too much money on hydrogen machines to figure out what was the best. And this is the one that eventually my heart condition went away, was with this piece of equipment. So they can check that out if they want at holyhydrogen.com. I have a few discount codes if you want them. If people want them, to me, whether they use them or not, it really makes not a huge difference to me. But the second part is, if they want the quality of water that you use, in my opinion, is also important for healing. That's what I did with my father, was making the cleanest water. And so again, I know every water filtration modality in existence, and carbon distillation makes the cleanest water. In fact, I probably should have had it right here for you, ready to go, but I can grab it. It's right here. And I have a third party lab tested the water system that I like to use, just because, again, it's the best. And it takes everything out of the water. And what's in our water these days is absolutely insane. I mean, it really is crazy what's in our water, after I've learned everything that's in it and seen the lab tests.
Yeah.
And so,
a lot of people say it's almost impossible to get chlorine out, regardless of what type of system that you're using.
Easy. It's easy. See, this is what easy. Yeah. I mean, I could show you, look, there's literally pages of chemicals that were lab tested, just pages. Look at all these things. And I could pick one, like the one, okay, we could talk about a lot of them, and chlorine could easily be one of them, but here's one. I'll show you one. Have you heard of PFAS?
No.
So PFAS is really strange, because the majority of people don't know this. It's in almost everybody's drinking water in America. And if you know anything about toxicology, PFAS is deemed literally zero. Literally zero of it is the only safe level. So even the tiniest amounts in your water, we know that it causes cancer. Highly, highly toxic. It's not easy to get this stuff out of your water. And if you were to look at the numbers here, you can see that before it was a 7, after carbon distillation, 0. So it eliminates all of it. And look at all these 0, 0, 0, 0. This is the only way that I found that you can actually clean your water completely. And no other water filtration modality will do that. No carbon filters, no reverse osmosis filters, no 10-stage. I know them all. I mean, I know every single. Berkey won't do it. This is not a Berkey. Berkey uses a type of gravity nanocarbon filter. It's not good enough. This is actually the way that nature does it. And that's how I discovered it, because a lot of the things that I've discovered, I always look to nature, including hydrogen. Hydrogen's huge in nature. And so you can eliminate literally everything out of water. So that's what I do. I eliminate everything out of water, completely clean it. It does remove everything, and that includes minerals. So then I remineralize it, which is actually very easy and very inexpensive. And I put it in the hydrogen generator. It fully saturates it with extremely clean hydrogen that is properly made, proper levels. The whole reason I found this device is because all the medical literature, they show you all the information, and it led me to this device by looking at the medical literature. And that's actually how I discovered it. And then I started creating protocols and figuring out how to use it. And it absolutely changed my life.
Yeah, we've got a couple questions here, and I'll go back up through, folks, but let's see. Brandon says, and what is the one that you are using?
Which one?
Are you talking about the water filtration system, Brandon? You want to pop on real quick?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, so the water filtration system that I personally use and recommend, and I only use the best, because ever since my health was in terrible shape, I'm all about the best at this point. It's from a website called mypurewater.com. And if you want a coupon code, you can use a coupon code if you want. It's the same as my YouTube channel, which is Uprising144K. And well, actually here, this is actually the lab testing is from mypurewater.com. And they have numerous systems, but just know that no matter the price or no matter which system, they all make the same quality of water, which is the cleanest water in existence. And so anything that you choose, they have systems that are anywhere from 600 and something all the way to, I think, $2,000 to $3,000. But it's all about options. But the quality of water they're all the same.
Okay, awesome.
I had my I was trying to plug in and it cut off for a second. Are these just like for a single source, or are these for like the whole, like all water for the whole, like your whole system for the house or apartment or et cetera?
So for example, they sell, for example, what's called a countertop system. So you can get a countertop where you just put it on the counter and you can literally put any water you want. You can put tap water, you can put a filtered water, whatever, and it will clean it to the maximum degree. And one of the important things about understanding about carbon distillation, which uses the power of the hydrologic system, which is how nature does it, by the way, is that it will literally purify all viruses, all bacteria, all parasites, all pharmaceuticals, all chemicals, even radioactive waste. I mean, that's how crazy it gets. When I was researching how to clean water, I didn't realize that we have radioactive contaminants in our water. I had no idea. And even this can even take care of that. I was very impressed. I mean, very impressed. So I've done my homework on this one.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Okay, so I want to make sure I've got this right again. It's uprising 1114K. No.
Remember, okay, maybe this will be the easiest way. This is the reason I chose the name of my channel. In ancient scripture, there was 12 tribes of 12,000. So 12 tribes of 12,000 equals 144,000.
Okay.
So it's uprising 144K, which stands for 1,000.
Got it. Okay,
And
I just
uprising,
beautiful. I want to put that code in for people.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can get one of their countertop systems, is like 600 and something bucks, and with the code it brings it down to like 500 and something bucks. But these carbon distillers are made in America. They use higher grades of like stainless steel. They're super reliable. I've had Chinese ones before in the past, but they always break, after a while. These ones, they literally last, I would say, almost forever. I've been using them for so long and super robust. So that's why I like them. And they also lab test their stuff. And so I'm a fan, obviously.
Awesome. So now that takes care of the water. How about the
Yeah.
hydrogen? How do people go about finding that?
So the hydrogen's where it's much more complex, and I do my best to try to make it easy for everybody. Hands down, the best is, again, the website is called holyhydrogen.com. If they want the discount code, it's the same thing, uprising 144K. The hydrogen generator is where you put the water in. So you could put any kind of water you want. You could literally put tap water. But of course, my recommendation is the cleanest water. You want the best, right? If you're doing it for your health and ultimately for the purification of the body, I would want the best. That's just my opinion. You put the water in, and the device will literally create the best hydrogen, nanobubbles. It even actually structures the hydrogen and has it induces this natural frequency that comes literally naturally from the hydrogen, which, by the way, to try to understand hydrogen, I mean, our sun is made up of almost entirely hydrogen. All the stars in the sky, the heavens or outer space is primarily made of hydrogen. It's required for every living thing on Earth. So if you take hydrogen out of a plant, that plant will just die. It is literally the source of life. It's very spiritual, but also, spirituality and life seem to really have a synergistic component to it. They seem to really be one or together or one and the same. So that's why, more life, more health, to the body. And so anyway, you can see it at holyhydrogen.com, the hydrogen generator. I have it here, people. If I'm going to put the camera on it, I'm going to point the camera to it.
Okay, great. And could you also explain while you're doing that? Carrie's wanting to know, said, my pure water is the water distiller. So how do you incorporate the hydrogen into that?
So what you do, I do have it here. If you can see here, for example, there's my carbon distiller right here. So this is how I make my water right here. That's how I clean it to the maximum degree. And then once it's cleaned, and I do videos pretty much live almost every morning showing people how to do it and some routines that I do because people always want to know what I did to heal myself. This is the hydrogen generator right here. So you pour the water in here, and it has a separate chamber over here. It's the best design. The Japanese came up with a really brilliant design because the water never has any electricity going through it. So it doesn't disrupt the water. So it has water in a whole separate chamber and releases the hydrogen. I mean, even if I were to just turn it on, you can see the hydrogen right there. See how it's already beginning to make it. And it'll go through this tube if I want to inhale it, but it can also saturate it into the water and I can drink the water. It's pretty simple. The Japanese made it so easy. It's literally one button.
So with the inhale, is it like it just like a slow inhale? It looks like one of like, you know, the things you kind of use and
Yeah, I'll do it right now if you want.
Yeah.
I can just inhale hydrogen, which I do quite often, actually. And I'm inhaling literally pure hydrogen gas. And so, for example, in Japan, you know, they give it to, they've used it for numerous things, but it's the first thing that it was approved for was for like heart attacks. So remember I told you I had a heart condition? It was crazy. I was scared to death. I got to tell you, I was so scared that they wanted to open me up and do surgery. And they told me that I wouldn't have that much life left if I didn't do it. Like, they're like, this is going to kill you if you don't get it taken care of. And I created a protocol, and I didn't think it was going to solve my heart issue because I had all sorts of other medical issues. It totally solved it. My cardiologist is checking me to, you know, get me ready for surgery. And all of a sudden my condition disappears. A condition which I had, by the way, for decades. I had it forever. I had it for a long time. And they were like shocked. They're like, how in the world did your heart condition just disappear? And it wasn't just the heart though, because eventually, I mean, I had all sorts of pains. Like, it was very inflammatory. I had inflammation all over my body, autoimmune issues with my gut. I had actually some tumors in my body. I mean, I had all sorts of problems. I was a mess. You know, I was really, you know, it totally had destroyed me, you know, as far as my health. And of course that affected my psyche, you know, affected my mind. When you're always hurt and you can't walk, you know, and the pain is the part that really messed me up actually psychologically. After a while, it tears you down. And so, you know, I started using the hydrogen, and then it really seemed to have another effect on me that I don't talk about a lot because it gets kind of into the whole spiritual realm of things. But hydrogen appears to be actually extremely spiritual. We're talking about the most pure substance known to man. Hydrogen is so pure, and there's so much energy in it. I mean, hence the reason they want to make, you know, certain things that could potentially be destructive, you know, with hydrogen. But the body thrives on it. The body, it's almost like that's literally what we were almost designed to have in our body. And our body actually produces hydrogen also. And as you age, or even the way that we eat and all the environmental things affects our production of hydrogen in our body. So it's been a very strange road to learn a lot about.
This is all very interesting because even like I was 5 minutes late when I came on, and you know, I read the description about, you know, what this was about tonight, but my first reaction when I came on was that you were like literally glowing. And it's like hard to like it, like that was the first thing that I was like, whoa, you know, like, and it's, I don't know, like, you know, I get empathic like energies from people, but you're like glowing. I don't know how to say it. That's why I like keep asking all these questions. Nice.
You know, it's so funny that you say that. I was sitting down with a friend, this was months ago, but I was sitting down with a friend. They were like looking at my skin and they were like, dude, your skin looks like it's glowing.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. But that's what, by the way, that's what hydrogen is. Hydrogen is light. Literally, that's what it is. It's the light of the world. I mean, again, the sun, and it brings all this stuff to like the plants, to nature. It moves the water, by the way. In fact, that's again, back to how do we purify the water. I don't know if you guys are aware, but the purification of water on planet Earth starts with hydrogen, because the sun hits the ocean and it gets hot, and then uprising, the steam, the water begins to rise up, it ascends. And through the ascension process, it leaves all impurities behind. This is where ascension becomes very like spiritual. And when the water comes back down as either rain or snow, that is distilled water. That's why if you read ancient scripture, it says, pure as the driven snow, pure as white as snow. There's all these writings about the snow. And that's what it is. It's literally distilled water. And that's why I started reading about it. And I discovered that nothing purifies water like this distillation process. And then, of course, combine it with hydrogen. And I mean, it was a magic formula, brother. I mean, it's been unbelievable path of learning and how it's all interconnected, and the way that it affects the body. It's just unbelievable. The way it moves the blood. I sincerely ask you guys to check out that video 68, the live blood analysis. There's been thermal imaging too. I have so much, literally so much data. It would take a long time to explain it all in just an hour. It would be not enough time.
Well, that's great because guess what? We've got you again on Thursday.
Right.
So yeah,
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, we could explain some of that again. Well, I think this is super fascinating, and I want to open it up. If anyone else has some questions that you would like to ask Greg, either raise your hand or come off mute. Okay, well, Brandon, I guess it's just us tonight.
Hi. No, hi. Hi, I'm Linda from Chicago. Do you fear for your life?
It's so weird that you say that, because I never thought that I would have an issue with that, talking about hydrogen, but I've had already some kind of scary incidents already, even though it's funny because my YouTube channel is actually quite small. And the things that I was discovering, I really thought that I was going to get a flood of people who would want to know, because they're like miracles. I've witnessed miracles. It's still hard to believe that the techniques that I developed have done what they've done. It really is hard to believe. And then I've been invited on shows like this before, and the attacks got crazy on some of them. And even the people who've interviewed me told me, they're like, you know what? It's so crazy. I've never been attacked so much as when I had you on. They said it was just unbelievable, the things that have happened. And so I started getting a little more cautious, and I literally started thinking about not doing this anymore, literally not talking about this anymore,
Wow.
not doing my YouTube channel anymore. So I had thought about it, and it has been a little weird. And if I'm really upfront with you, I'm not even sure how much longer I'm going to do it. This just happened to work out the way it did, but I'm actually planning on moving and in the very, very near future. And I'm planning on leaving the country and kind of going into seclusion, actually. So it's kind of weird that you're asking that, but yeah, it has been a concern.
Wow. So I know we've got some hands up, and I'm going to bring them up, but the protocol that you have developed for this, how can people get a hold of that? Do they need to write to you? Can you share that information?
Yeah, I have numerous different protocols depending on the condition that people are going through. And then I also have overall protocols for people who want to just stay healthy or not as serious conditions, because the real serious ones, the protocols can get really involved.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is going to sound weird. I only ask that people hopefully try to be open-minded, but I don't blame anybody if they don't believe me, because I am a skeptic. And if I heard this years ago, I probably wouldn't believe it. But it's almost as if the hydrogen began to communicate with me. And so the hydrogen, as I used it more and more, it was like I kept getting these downloads. I would get so much information, and I would create these protocols, stuff that I didn't even know where it was coming from. And now I've got books inside of it. When I say books, I could literally talk for countless hours. I have so much information. And so as far as protocols, what I would say, if you want something more basic, you can go watch my video 337. So remember, my videos are numbered, and 396 is also pretty good, but 337 is more of the hydrogen protocol. And I think video 388 is really good as far as explaining water and how to clean it and the differences and things like that. I think all those videos would be helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, Susie, do you have a question? I see your hand up.
Yeah, I don't really feel qualified because I miss so much coughing, but have you heard of Emery Smith's water that's like $4 a bottle?
I don't know her particular water, but again, being really upfront with you, I've heard countless people contact me with always this person's water, this person's water, this person's water. And that was one of my frustrations when I was sick, is that I would try to find the answers, and there was so much contradicting information. Somebody would say, no, this water is the best. No, this water is the best. Or you should eat nothing but fruit, or no, you should eat nothing but meat. And everybody was contradicting each other. And it was really frustrating for me. And eventually I kind of went down my own path. And my biggest thing that I looked for was for data. So I really, really wanted data to help guide me. So for example, this is just one example, but third-party lab testing, they just clearly showed me that this was the best way to clean water. But that was just one of the easier aspects. Cleaning water is easy. Hydrogen was a much more complex, much more difficult. I went specifically off the data because I found water that was claimed to be good. Like, for example, the whole Kangen water. If you guys have ever heard of Kangen water, the data on that, like if you really look at the latest Japanese data, it's actually not that good. And it's a very popular machine and all this stuff, but the data's not good. And so I had to go off. There's a university. It's the #1 university in the world that researches hydrogen and uses it medically. And it's approved medically. And that's the data that I'm going off of. And that's what led me to understanding hydrogen better, and even the equipment that I began to choose that actually was really making the difference that I was looking for. So I don't really subscribe to there's a lot of people out there who think they're water experts. And I hate to say it, but I really don't really subscribe to that anymore. I've created my own path on this one.
That's beautiful. I promise to watch everything as soon as Sheila puts it up. I really had a difficult time. Water is so, so important to us. And if we can find, I can't wait to watch it. Sheila, put it up. Thank you so much.
We will. Thanks so much, honey.
And I'm happy to, I mean, I don't like to argue with people or, do debates, but I mean, I'm happy to talk with somebody who's like, no, my water's the best and we can talk about it. I'm happy to do it, but I can also, if you really want, I mean, I can explain the reasons for the methods, not only that I've now used, but also why, because the data, again, is what really, really supports it. And like I said, we're talking about something that doesn't have hundreds, but literally almost 2,000 studies behind it. I mean, this is the real deal. And we can clearly see, even in live blood analysis, and like I said, literal live thermal imaging. And that's important. A lot of people don't understand why thermal imaging is important. But the Japanese discovered that almost every single cancer patient, I believe the number is something like 98.9% of cancer patients, almost every single one of them has a low core body temperature. So it seems to be a sign of cancer, which we hadn't really, in America, they don't know much about it. And when you use hydrogen, in this particular study, they literally used this device. I mean, this is the #1 device, by the way. This is the one that the hospitals go to. They go to this company. This company is doing some amazing stuff with hydrogen. They're the best. And they actually were inhaling from this device, and they did the thermal imaging, and you could clearly see the difference. I put it on video. I think it's video number 68, if I remember correctly. I got so many videos. I have over 400 videos. So if that tells you anything for me to remember all of them.
Okay, great. All right, let's see. Sola? Do you have a question?
Yes.
Hi.
Yes. Hi. Thank you. Hi, everyone. And great presentation, H-Man. Thank you. Very interesting. Very interesting. It's clear that you have done quite a bit of research and found the best data and the things that work for you. And it's perfect and I'm really happy that you're sharing it, because it's quite interesting that you're the third person this week, not, in the last few days, that has been talking about hydrogen and water, and that more hydrogen is definitely recommended from the quantum world of the physicists. So thank you. Yes. I guess my question is around, some of these water filtration systems and hydrogen generators are pretty expensive.
Yes.
And, just for a family of like 3, it could get pricey to use that stuff. Yes. So I'm just wondering, what is the next best thing? Like, for example, what do you think about the Berkey filtration system until we can save up for the other one, for example?
Yeah, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this is what I would say. So the Berkey system is not, first of all, it won't filter out everything that needs to be filtered out of water. That's kind of the first thing. If that's all you've got, then that's all you got, and you do the best you can. You use your Berkey system.
Right.
I was actually, and this has happened quite a few times, by the way, I was contacted by a doctor. It's kind of a funny story, because it was actually, she's the daughter of a gentleman who found me. Because I've been talking about hydrogen forever, by the way. There's a lot of newcomers into the whole hydrogen thing. I've been talking about forever. I've been doing it for years, by the way. I was actually the first guy to really come on YouTube and start educating about this. And so this particular woman had some medical issues, and she's a doctor. And she had these medical issues, and she just couldn't solve her own medical problems. And so she asked me, she goes, hey, could you help me with my medical issues? And I said, sure, because I've done this a lot. And I said, okay, first we start with your water. And I told her about the, carbon distiller. And she said, oh, no, I got a Berkey. And I said, look, I understand that you have a Berkey, but we are talking about a medical issue. And the very first thing I like to tackle is clean water and clean hydrogen, because this is like at the fundamental core of everything that I do. And she was like, no, I don't think I want to go get a carbon distiller. And I said, okay, I mean, you don't have to, but I'm telling you, if you want to get better. So she did get the hydrogen generator. So she's like, I want to get on the hydrogen. When we first spoke, she actually thought it was a bunch of hogwash. And I said, look, we can't even have a conversation clearly if you're not believing what I'm telling you. So as a doctor, she went to go read the data, and she literally got back to me in 4 days. And when she called me back, she goes, oh my God, this hydrogen stuff's amazing. I can't believe all the data. This is the real deal. And I'm like, yeah, I tried to tell you 4 days ago and you wouldn't have it. So she got really, really excited about the hydrogen thing, and she got the hydrogen generator. One of the things I love about the hydrogen generator is that it'll also potentially expose the quality of your water. So what I mean by that is, she put her Berkey water in this machine. Within about a month or two, she called me again and she said, hey, I think there's something wrong with my hydrogen machine. And I was like, kind of doubt that, because these Japanese machines they're like the Toyota of hydrogen generators. They're super reliable. They last a super long time. They're actually, again, they're better than anything I've ever seen out there. And I said, why do you think something's wrong? And she said, well, on the metal panel, there's what appears to be like green bubble gum. I was like, green bubble gum? I'd never seen anything like that on the buildup of the metal plates. So she took a picture, which I still have in my phone, and she sent me the picture, and I thought, this is crazy. So I called the company, because this company has access to top-notch engineers, scientists, and I'd never seen anything like it. And I'd already been doing hydrogen for years. And I showed it to them, and they got back to me, and they said, it's not the machine, it's her water. And that's when I thought, you know what? I bet you this is what's making her sick. And so I told her, it's the water. I said, your Berkey's not working good enough. And so she finally broke down. She got a carbon distiller with the hydrogen generator, as I had originally suggested. 6 to 8 months later, her medical conditions were gone. And this is something she had had for years and years and years and years. And so she was just ecstatic, to the moon, because she had spent thousands. I mean, like the kind of money that I've spoken to people who have literally spent $175,000. There was a guy who spent $225,000 going to countless doctors, countless specialists, flying all over the US to go see different doctors. They could not solve their medical issues. And all of a sudden, she bought a carbon distiller that was like, with the coupon code, it was like 500 and something bucks. She got the hydrogen generator, which is a little less than 2,500 bucks. And that was it. And these machines last years and years. It's not like you have to buy them every couple months. And so it changed her life. And so, again, I'm all about the best. And if you can't do the best, you do what you can. But eventually, obviously I've learned the hard way, which is I used to never want to spend money on organic food. I never wanted to have the best water filter. I really did all the wrong things for my health. And then eventually now it's like priority number one for me now. I will spend maybe even more than I should, but it's just such a priority for me now, because when I'm not healthy, I'm just not happy. And when I'm in pain and I can't walk and I can't work, it destroyed my life. It really did. The fact that I'm here and still alive and feeling as good as I am is it's a miracle, and I'm very grateful for it. It's really changed.
Thank you so much. That's very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see, Linda, do you have another question?
Oh, hi. Hi, thank you very much. Lots of questions. Should we throw out our structured water devices, the portable one, the plastic ones?
I wouldn't say that I would throw them away, but I know the science behind structured water, by the way. So it's something that I definitely deeply researched also. And there is data, though the data is extremely hard to find, but I did find it. Structured water, and I hate to say this, but let's say you have issues like, again, diabetes, glaucoma, heart condition. In my opinion, structured water is not going to fix those things. No medical, like true medical university uses structured water medicinally, like they use hydrogen. And they also use, obviously, we all know this one, they all use oxygen too. Like when you need oxygen, they put you on oxygen. Hydrogen is kind of like that. It really is used medically and approved, and there's so much science behind it. Structured water does have a mild effect on the water, but nothing that's like out of this world, if I'm really quite upfront with you. So I wouldn't say just throw it out. You could take structured water. See, to me, this is my train of thought when I was trying to figure out my own way, is when everybody was disagreeing about water, eventually the first thought that came to my mind was like, I just want clean water. Like, we can all argue about the pH or the spring water or the this or the that, but I just want clean water. Can I just ask for that? Like something that has no chemicals, no nothing in it. And that's where that first began. And then of course with the hydrogen and then combining those two things. So it was really kind of that basic for me. And just so you know, hydrogen water, true hydrogen, like medical grade hydrogen water, is what they call pH neutral. So if you're manipulating pH, you're not actually doing it right, because hydrogen is pH neutral. Hydrogen is also odorless, colorless, tasteless. So these are like some of the fundamental things about the way hydrogen works. The moment you start manipulating those things, it's not pure hydrogen. So it's an easy rule of thumb.
Another question, thank you. What about showers? How do we, I mean, the water is going into our systems when we shower.
Yes, but it's very different. And let me tell you why it's different. Like, I could go, because I used to live in South America and like in Mexico, where the water, like if you literally drink the water, you'll die. I mean, I literally had a relative that literally almost died because they drank a little bit of their water. But you could easily shower in that water and you're not going to die. So it's not the same.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Thank you, Linda.
Not to say that having your skin exposed to that water is not good, because our skin is the largest organ of the human body. And of course, ideally, we want clean water to shower in. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, which is one of the reasons that I'm actually moving. I'm following the water and the air. I'm not going anywhere because of any other reason. I'm following the water and the air. I want the absolute cleanest water that I'm going to bathe in every single day. And the air that I want to breathe, I want it to be the cleanest. And I'm definitely taking my carbon distiller and my hydrogen generator. And, you know, life and health have become the most important things in my life. That ever since I went through what I went through. And yeah, obviously it's affected me. And now the whole point of my life is directed around that.
Yeah.
So do you patent your research? I mean,
No.
So it's just open. Anybody can use your research.
Yeah, but you know, the truth is, well, some of it has been stolen actually. So by me doing my YouTube channel, I've had numerous things be stolen from me already. When I created my hydrogen protocol, I put it out in video 337. Well, after 2 to 3 months of releasing it, sure enough, somebody took that and did the first scientific study. They proved that my theory was right. My method worked better than anybody else's method, but somebody else took credit for it. And that's not the first thing. I've done numerous things like this. And I have more to come. Like I said, the hydrogen, as crazy as it sounds, it almost feels like it begins to communicate with me. And I have ideas that would just literally change the world. If I were to start going into them, but I haven't released them publicly because I've had too much stuff stolen and I know that it's going to get stolen. And it's not like I want like money or even the important part is I just want people to know where the information is coming from. I don't want somebody else taking my stuff and then taking credit for it. Kind of like, I can give you one example. You guys ever heard of this guy, Masaru Emoto, the Hidden Messages in Water?
Of course.
So this gentleman was a Japanese gentleman. He's passed on now. Now imagine if he discovered this. And by the way, I thought this was a bunch of hogwash too, but this is the real deal. His research, this stuff was truly valid with the work that he was doing with water. And I thought it was sounding like a bunch of baloney because I'm a skeptic. I hate to say it, but I am. Looking deeper into it, I realized that he was right. And what he was discovering was really amazing. Well, what if somebody else would have taken his research and pawned it off as their own? We would have never known who Masaru Emoto was. So for me, I just want people to know where the information is coming from. You know, that's the important part to me. So because of that, I now have to be more cautious. And in the near future, I do plan on giving this information. I don't even need to sell it. I just need to, I already know who I want to give it to. And I want them to do something special with it. And I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm happy to work for free. I really don't care about that. I want to help humanity because I think that this could help literally change the world. In fact, what people don't realize, have you guys ever heard of the age of Aquarius?
Yes, of course.
And obviously how we're going into this.
Right.
My theory on the age of Aquarius is actually the age of the true knowledge of water, which is Aquarius, which is actually the true knowledge of hydrogen. Because hydrogen is going to change everything. It'll change the world of energy. It'll change the world of health. It'll change the world of medicine. It'll change the world of agriculture. It'll change the world of so many things you can't even begin to fathom. This is going to revolutionize, literally, it's going to bring on a golden age. I mean, this is what hydrogen's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
So are you coaching? Are you
Yes,
coaching people privately, sessions?
You know, I'm open to doing it. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I will, again, being really honest with you guys, it's really hard for me to deny it to people, not do it because of the need. People have a need, people need their health back. People need their life back. And it's hard for me to just deny that to people, even though it's extremely busy for me. It's very time consuming and very difficult, but yes, I oftentimes do it. But that's also why I created a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is for free. Everybody can go watch my videos. I do a lot of coaching through the YouTube channel to really help a lot of people that way. But if people need one-on-one, they can email me and we can make arrangements.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda. Okay.
And I'm also happy to share it. I've actually been teaching a lot of physicians about it, so that way they can spread the word, whether they're naturopaths, even MDs. But I can train people with it, so that way they can carry that knowledge out into the world and help others too.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, Susan, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I was curious, not only on the hydrogen machine, but on the pure water machine. Are those devices that need the filters replaced on a regular cycle?
So it depends on how you do it. So me personally, I own every water filtration system there is, meaning I have carbon filters, nanocarbon gravity filters, I have reverse osmosis filters, and obviously I have the distiller with the carbon. What I do is I just put reverse osmosis water into it, and it will take that water and fully clean it. So I just need a distillation, which means I don't need a filter because it already ran through the reverse osmosis filter. But if you're going to use up straight tap water, then the distiller uses this little filter, and this is part of it here. You just slide it underneath, and when the distilled water goes through here, there's actually a carbon filter in here. This is all packaged new because I'm not using it because I don't need it. But if you just use tap water, then you would have to buy these little filters, but they're very cheap. These are very small. It's very basic because the process of distillation removes almost everything. The carbon just removes like a last few little bits, but it's truly the distillation process that really cleans the water in a way that nothing else can. And then you just have to clean the tank out periodically for maintenance. They're pretty cheap once you have a machine.
Okay, and the hydrogen machine doesn't require any filters?
So the hydrogen machine doesn't require any filters, but it does have a cartridge. In fact, this is what it looks like. These guys, this is very special. So this hydrogen machine, the thing I discovered about it doing all my research is that it has a bunch of one-offs, meaning technology that just didn't exist. The Japanese had to develop it, and a lot of it's patented. Nobody else in the world has it. And this is part of the technology. This is called an H-type DI filter. Everything in it is food grade. So everything's about the highest purity, which is what I like about this, because there's a lot of hydrogen machines that use chemicals, cheap metals. I don't even understand why they do it. It seems ridiculous to me. But you do have to replace this cartridge every 1 to 2 years, and they're like $49. So and you can make tons of hydrogen with just one of these. So, you know, once a year to once every 2 years, you replace just this guy for like $49.
Okay, thank you very much for that piece of information.
And
yeah, you're welcome.
Continue with that, just to go over that. So you're saying for the countertops, like I can use, you know, like the tap water, but it would have to be that small little silver filter, right?
Yeah, you'd want to use the carbon. So let me give you an example as to why. Let's say you put tap water into your carbon distiller, into your distiller, and it begins to leave all impurities behind, but chlorine is a gas. So the chlorine will get by. But the simple carbon filter easily filters out the chlorine. So it literally gets rid of like 98, 99% of the contaminants. And the very last little bit, this little carbon filter easily takes it out. And this third-party lab testing, if you look at it closely, this is important to note. I'm trying to show you an example here. But you'd have to look at like, gosh, most of this stuff doesn't show it because distillation gets rid of most of it. Some of these have like a tiny little asterisk that shows the carbon getting rid of just the last tiny little bits. I guess I can't find it right now, but I guess to answer your question, I would use the carbon filter with it is what I would do. Unless, you know, like with my Berkey, I used to take the water from my Berkey and put it in my carbon distiller to remove everything else. So it already ran through that filter. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense. But
Kind. Okay, so basically, I guess, so what you're saying, so basically the water is like purified before you put it in your water distiller. Is that what you're saying?
that's what I do.
Yes.
But
Okay.
if I didn't have the reverse osmosis that I have access to right now, then I would just slide this guy in.
Okay. And
Just
and that would like go with one of the countertop ones. And with those filters, are you have any recommended filters, or are those the same ones by that company?
I like the ones by this company because this company does see, I'm really into the details, and this is why I always go after the best. And so this company, the way that they construct these filters, they like sew them rather than glue them because they don't want glues, for example. I mean, they're so into the details about the purity of the water. And I did find it right here. So see if you notice, it's in the fine print, but I can read it for you. It just says results are based on pure water distillers. So they're specific distillers because the way that they distill is a little different than other distillers. And it's also being used in conjunction with carbon filter. So see, it's using the combination. That's why I call it a carbon distiller, because it uses both together. And that's
And
the way to truly purify the water.
and do you have a link, or what's the name of that filter, the one that if you were to use tap water?
So it literally comes with the machine,
Oh, it
and
does.
that
Okay. Awesome.
and the website mypurewater.com supplies them because
Okay, so
they
it's
have
from the same. Okay.
same company. Yeah, that's why I like this company. I mean, I only support companies of products that I personally use, and my research always leads me to the best. I'm not biased. I will just go for the best. If it costs more, then that's the way it is. If it's cheaper, great. But I only go for the best. That's just my personality because I want that for me, and then that's what I share with others. So
Thank you.
Thank you,
you're
Brandon.
welcome.
Thank you. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Great. You have a question?
I do. This is so perfect because I was doing some research on hydrogen and I was looking at wanting to get a machine for myself. So the timing couldn't have been more perfect for this conversation today. My question is, what would you recommend for a protocol if somebody had liver tumors and high blood pressure and kidney stones?
Well, the protocol that I would recommend, and it would be, well, this is not medical advice or medical claims. The only problem is that to really walk you through the entire process would literally take hours because it's a re-educational process. But if I were to give you like a simple protocol, I mean, first I need to find out if your kidneys are functioning properly. Because when we use a hydrogen protocol with water, I need to know the state of your kidneys to find out how to use the water throughout the day and how much water we can use. So that's going to kind of change things. But for what you're talking about, I would immediately, like one thing that I would ask you, which may sound kind of weird, but what state are you in?
Everything's functioning. And as far as the liver tumor, it's non-cancerous. It's a hemangioma, but it's pretty large. And yeah, the kidneys are functioning. There is, I know there's some cyst in there,
Okay.
and I've had high blood pressure for a while.
Okay. And then what state did you say you're in, by the way? I'm not trying to like figure out where you're at. I was thinking about the
When
water.
you say state, what do you mean?
Like, are you in Texas? Are you in California?
Oh, state. I thought you were talking about my physical state in California.
Okay. So a lot of people don't know this, but California has a major problem with their water. They have tons of PFAS in their water. And PFAS is what causes tumors and cancer. And we know that beyond the shadow of a doubt at any level, even the smallest levels. One of the reasons that California has a major problem with it is because they literally use it in fighting forest fires. The stuff they spray and whatever, there's PFAS in it. It gets into all the waterways. And that's something that we know is a fact. We've known this for years, but almost nobody has really heard about it. What I would do if I were you, just me personally, first thing is I would get the cleanest water there is. That's the first thing. You got to
there's
clean
no
your
question.
water.
I'm going to get these devices. So that's not even a question. I'm going to purchase both of them.
So first you start with really clean water. If I had hydrogen, what I do, my personal protocol is every morning when I wake up, and if you follow my YouTube channel, I literally do a live video just about every single morning showing people my protocols because I'm trying to help educate and people can see my routine that I've created. But basically in the morning, the first thing you want to do is actually brush your teeth, as crazy as that sounds, but with no toothpaste. So you get a toothbrush, you just wet it, you brush your teeth, 20 seconds, nothing major. Make sure to brush the inner surfaces of your mouth, meaning the inner lining of your cheeks, the roof of your mouth, and your tongue. Why? The Japanese discovered that we literally grow cancer-causing bacteria in our mouth every night. So when we wake up in the morning and we eat something or drink something, we're literally ingesting these into our system. So first we clean our mouth. It's easy, it's 20 seconds, it's no big deal. The reason I don't use toothpaste is because the very next thing that I'm going to use is the hydrogen water. And I don't want to have a residue of toothpaste that I'm going to swallow. So I just use water. I actually make a little bottle. One of the nice things about having a carbon distiller, there's going to be a lot of uses for it, by the way, but I do a little bit of water with an essential oil and I spray that in my mouth just to kind of freshen up and I brush my teeth. Then I consume 1 liter, because 1 liter in 1 hour is the maximum amount of water that you can consume without straining your kidneys. Hydration is crucial to health, but when you bring hydrogen into it, it changes everything. So I consume 1 liter in the morning. I have a 20-ounce glass, I pour it, and you drink it relatively quickly. I finish mine in less than 2 minutes. And the reason I say that is because hydrogen escapes very quickly. So I drink, 1 glass, and then when I'm ready, I pour it again until I finish 1 liter of water. Then I wait 20 to 30 minutes before I literally eat anything. And what I do in that 20 to 30 minute time frame, which is what I do my live videos on my YouTube, is I make what's called a hydrogen smoothie. And so I start utilizing a lot of anti-cancerous ingredients in my smoothies, which are basically made of fruits and vegetables and nuts and some seeds. And so I make this like just powerhouse of a smoothie with all sorts of nutrients. So one of the most important things that people don't realize is that it's important for us to not have any deficiencies. We know in science, it's like literally clear as day, that if you're deficient in something, it typically leads to disease. So if I give you one example, if you're deficient in vitamin C, it leads to scurvy. If you fix the deficiency, the scurvy goes away. Learning that when I was sick was, I want to be not deficient in anything. I want my body running on all cylinders. And what I learned throughout my research is that like 99% of Americans, like almost everybody out there, is deficient in something. That's how crazy it began to be. And when I spoke to numerous doctors, numerous physicians literally told me that they were telling me, you know what? It's almost pretty much impossible to not be deficient. They said everybody's deficient in something. And so I created my own technique, which is really affordable and pretty easy. And I created this hydrogen smoothie with certain nutrients. And I did it in such a way where I used food as my powerhouse with the clean water, with the hydrogen. I kind of created this thing with minerals too. I just created this whole thing that you can see videos. Video 396 shows you how I do it on my YouTube channel. And I began to do that. And I did blood work to make sure that what I was doing was working. And my blood work started being so ridiculously good. I literally had a doctor call me. This happened about a month and a half ago. A doctor called me and they were like, I saw your blood results and I just had to ask you, what are you doing? And I was like, why? And they said, we've never seen blood like this. Your blood is unbelievable. You have no deficiencies. Everything is like too perfect. And I literally want to know what you're doing because I'd like to apply this to my patients. I couldn't believe a doctor was asking me this because most doctors don't really like what I've got to say because they're so indoctrinated, And so anyway, I would be consuming those type of smoothies. And for kidney stones, believe it or not, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but there's data. We literally have scans. I've seen them. You want to eliminate all, and this is all temporary. You can change your diet later, but while you're trying to heal, you want to eliminate all meat, all eggs, all dairy, and all seafood. And you bring that clean water and hydrogen. I've seen kidney stones just disappear. Things that the doctor said was just impossible. And I've seen the scans. I've seen scans of tumors, cancerous tumors. That's another one I've seen in the lymphatic system, in the heart, not the heart, the lymphatic system in the liver. And what was the other ones? The lymphatics, in the lungs. And so, I've literally seen these tumors either significantly shrink or disappear. So I've seen this stuff. It's hard to believe. It really is hard to believe. But in your case, I would probably use, I don't know if we're at liberty to talk about it if we're on YouTube, but I'm also pretty big on certain antiparasitics, which shall remain nameless. I don't want to get the channel in trouble right now. But there's 3 different antiparasitics that I've been using myself way before the whole pandemic and everything. But, it's probably something that you might want to actually call me on. We talk a little privately over the phone. You can actually email me and we can arrange something.
Okay, I appreciate that. Now, one last question.
Sure.
What university do you pull your research from?
Well, it just depends, but the #1 university in the world that researches hydrogen and uses it medically is called Keio University. It's a Japanese university. And that's
Keio?
really Keio University, yeah. It's Keio.
Okay, I'll have to check that. I love doing research myself. So
If you want to read data from Keio University, but that's in English, because otherwise, unless you read Japanese, you can find it at holyhydrogen.com. They have a bunch of medical links to all the medical research, so you can read a ton of it. There's tons of it. You can read it forever. It took me years to go through it, and I'm still not through all of it. I just realized that this stuff is clearly the real deal. So I got more interested in how to make it and use it after a while.
oh, that's awesome. I really appreciate it. And, I've been fortunate enough that, I found a cellular biologist who's retired. He's a double PhD cellular biologist who worked for the CIA in biological and chemical warfare and decided to, give back to the community. And so he helps people restore their health, doing blood analysis and looking at their blood and seeing what's going on in their blood and helping them clean it up. So this is going to be really fun for me to actually do this and then be able to actually see the data real live and see the changes.
Great.
So I'll definitely send you an email and reach out to you. I really appreciate it. And I love what you're doing. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you later.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
You're
John.
welcome.
See, I have one more question. Let me see if I can get this right. Okay. Would it still be effective for someone to buy the hydrogen machine when they use pure well water or pure spring water?
Well, yes. I mean, you can still dissolve the hydrogen into such waters, but again, just remember, I'm all about like the best. So I get a little extreme as far as the purity of my water, but yes, you could still do that for sure. Absolutely. A lot of people have done that.
Okay, great. So I want to thank you for being here with us tonight. This has been absolutely amazing, and grateful that you'll be back with us on Thursday. So if anyone has any questions that you didn't get to answer, hold on to those or hold on to those and bring them with you on Thursday. And so, all right, Mr. Greg, the Hydrogen Man, do you have any final comments that you'd like to leave us with?
There's a lot to say. I guess all I would say in the end is obviously the stars are made of hydrogen. And the stars seem to have a real like guiding light for us. I believe even when didn't the three wise men even follow a star to find Jesus, and they were following hydrogen, as crazy as that may sound. And I really think this is going to be a huge game changer for the earth, meaning the world, the people of it. And I appreciate you having me on, and I really hope that we can continue to spread this word. So any viewers, if you guys want to share this, they will say share, subscribe and all that, but I mean, really, really share, because there's a lot of people out there who are truly in need right now. And they don't really realize that there is such an option, even though we have so much medical data. But you talk to most doctors out there, they don't have a clue about hydrogen. They don't even know it exists. And so eventually they will, but it's going to take at least 1 or 2 decades before physicians in America really begin to clue into this. But we already have it now, and it's accessible to us now. Thank God, truly thank God for the guy. There's a whole story, maybe we can talk about it next time. But one of the guys who was responsible for building this device, his story is so unbelievable and why he did it. And we could probably touch more on that next time, because it really is a great story.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for being here. Thanks to everyone that's in the audience live and watching us. If you have not already done so, I'd like to encourage you to go to our website, thegalacticalliance.org. Sign up to be on our mailing list. You will receive 2 emails every week to let you know who our phenomenal speakers will be. And we'll also try to keep you updated about other events that are happening as well. And so, again, thank you everyone for being here. And until we are back together again on Thursday, namaste. Much love, everybody. Have a great week and see you soon.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.
Everybody, night, night. Well.
All right.